The sun was already a curse when Elias Boone tied off his mule and stepped into the auction circle. Dust swirled like smoke across the cracked earth. Men coughed into their sleeves. A woman in a bonnet wept beside a chained boy no older than 10. The auctioneer barked names and numbers from a half-broken crate, fanning himself with a folded wanted poster. Elias pushed his hat low. He wasn't here for pity. He needed hands, cheap ones, to keep the ranch from bleeding out before winter. Next, the auctioneer grunted, nodding to a scar-faced guard. Lot 39. A hush fell. Even the flies seemed to pause. From the wagon stepped a man, tall, broad-shouldered, barefoot. His shirt hung in tatters, sun-bleached to bone. Shackles clinked as he moved, but he didn't drag his feet. He stood like a tree that had seen fire and didn't much care for it anymore. Age, 39. Labor, experienced. Speak your name, son. Silence. The crowd shifted. A thin man near the fence leaned in and whispered, "That one don't talk. Been here 3 days. Don't eat. Don't sleep. Just stares. Some say he killed his last owner," another murmured. Crushed his skull with a branding iron. Elias's fingers twitched at his belt buckle. The man's eyes scanned the circle. Not begging, not pleading. Just watching. Measuring. "What's his price?" Elias asked, voice like gravel. The auctioneer blinked. $2. Can't hardly give him away. He spooks folks. Elias didn't blink. Sold. A laugh rippled from someone behind him. You just bought yourself a curse, Boone. He ignored it. He stepped forward, pulled the coins from his pocket, dropped them into the waiting palm. A key was handed over, rusted, blackened with age. Elias approached the man. "Name?" he asked. The reply came low, like a wind through canyon stone. "Call me Finch." Elias unlocked the shackles. The chains dropped to the dirt. Finch didn't rub his wrists, didn't look grateful, just stared west, toward the fading mountains. "You work hard, you get fed," Elias said. "That's all I promise." Finch nodded once. Nothing more. They walked out of Dustwell in silence, mill trailing behind them, heat biting at their necks. Behind them, the auction resumed. Another voice crying, another soul, priced cheap. They didn't look back. The fence post snapped with a dry crack, split clean down the middle. Elias swore under his breath. Finch knelt beside the broken rail, ran a hand across the splintered wood, then stood. Without a word, he walked to the shed, fetched a fresh beam, and set to work. Hammer rang against nail, steady as the ticking of clock. No wasted motion. No pause. "Don't suppose you want water first?" Elias asked. Finch didn't answer. By sundown, the entire south line was rebuilt, 20 posts, 300 yards of rail. Elias had planned on it taking 3 days. Maybe 4. He watched from the porch, nursing a flask of rye, brow creased beneath his hat brim. The man hadn't eaten since morning, hadn't spoken since Dustwell. Elias lit a lantern and left a plate of beans and jerky by the barn door. Come morning, the plate was clean. The days rolled out in dust and silence. Finch never asked questions. He rose before the sun, worked with a slow kind of grace, and slept, if he slept at all, beneath the stars. Sometimes Elias found him at the edge of the canyon ridge, unmoving, like he was listening to something too far off for others to hear. In town, tongues wagged. "He's too strong for a man that age," said the saloon-keeper. "Snapped a rusted hinge off my gate with 2 fingers. Ain't natural," muttered the blacksmith. Saw him calm a wild Mustang with 1 look. Beast just folded. Elias didn't listen. Not much. He had tools that worked and a roof that didn't leak. That was enough. One night, thunder rolled in from the east. The sky cracked open, and the barn roof gave way. Finch climbed up in the dark, rain pelting down, lightning dancing across the horizon. He worked without rope or brace, hammering planks into place with bare hands slick with rain. A beam slipped. Elias shouted. The wind tore the words from his throat. Finch caught the beam mid-fall, one hand like it weighed nothing. Eyes met across the lightning flash. For a second, Elias swore he saw something behind those eyes. Not fear, not pain, something old and deep, like the roots of a mountain. Later, by the fire, Elias poured 2 cups of coffee. Sat one beside Finch. "Where you from?" Silence. Seen a lot of men work. Never one like you. Finch stared into the flames. Then, quietly, I was born in the mines. Learned to breathe dust before I could speak. Nothing more. They sat until the fire died, and the coyotes howled beyond the ridge. The barn was burning. Elias woke to the sharp crack of timber splitting, the heat already licking through the window pane. He stumbled out the door in his long johns, rifle in hand, heart pounding like war drums. 6 riders circled the ranch, shadows in the firelight, faces masked. One dragged a rope, another carried a bottle of flame. Grigg sends his regards, a voice jeered. A shot rang. The last horse fell screaming. Elias's only one left. Flames roared higher, catching the hay. Sparks lifted into the black sky like damned souls. Elias fired once, hit nothing. They fired back. A bullet tore through the porch post near his head. He dove behind the trough, breath heaving, blood in his mouth from a chipped tooth. "Should have sold your land, old man," someone yelled. "Now we're taking it from your corpse." A boot thudded close. The rope dragged behind. Elias cocked the rifle. Empty. They were closing in. Then a silence. No gunfire. No voices. Only the sound of the fire eating its way through the barn. One of the riders turned. A figure stood behind them. Finch, barefoot, shirtless. Ash streaked across his chest. He held no weapon. "You again?" the lead rider laughed. "You planning to stare us to death?" Finch didn't speak. The nearest man rushed him with a Bowie knife. It ended fast. Finch stepped sideways, caught the wrist, and slammed the man into the dirt so hard his spine gave a sickening crack. The knife clattered. 2 others drew pistols. Finch moved, no warning, just motion. One went down choking, arm broken in 3 places. The other screamed as Finch shattered his knee with a stomp. The 4th man hesitated. Fired. The bullet caught Finch in the side. He didn't flinch. He turned, eyes glowing faint in the firelight. Not with pain, with something older. The 4th man dropped his gun and ran into the dark. Only the leader remained. Grigg's man, heavy set, still mounted. He reached for his holster. Finch grabbed a fallen branding iron from the dirt. Glowing red. He hurled it, one clean arc through the smoke. It struck the man square in the face. He fell off his horse and didn't rise. Finch stood among the flames and bodies. Bleeding, breathing slow, Elias pulled himself up, stared. "You were shot," he rasped. Finch looked down. Blood soaked his side. He touched it, almost curious. "Hurts less than the copper pits." "Who the hell are you?" Elias whispered. Finch turned to him. "I was born a slave beneath the mines of Juarez. I killed my first overseer at 13. I burned the tunnels when I was 16. They call me cursed. I just lived." A gust of wind blew smoke across the ranch. The barn hissed and crackled. Finch added, "I stopped aging a long time ago, but I never stopped fighting." He turned and walked into the firelight, barefoot, leaving only scorched footprints in the dirt. The last ember hissed in the ash as dawn broke over Boone Ranch. Smoke curled in low trails from the barn's blackened ribs. Blood soaked into the dirt beneath the porch, still warm. The wind had calmed, but the air hung heavy, like something sacred had happened, and the land knew it. Elias sat on the steps, arm in a sling, cheek bruised purple. He sipped burnt coffee, staring at the spot where Finch had stood just hours before. The place felt different now. Not just quieter, older. Footsteps approached. Townsfolk, hesitant, armed, faces tight with unease. They found the bodies where they fell. Grigg's men, broken, burned, gone. Not one remained breathing. Elias didn't speak, just nodded once and watched them gather around what was left of the barn. Sheriff Avery stepped forward, hat in hand. "We heard the fire from town. Thought it was the end of the ranch." "Could have been," Elias rasped. "Wasn't." "Where is he?" the sheriff asked. "Gone," Elias said. Finch's trail led out toward the ridgeline. Barefoot prints scorched into the dust, already fading with the breeze. No blood. No shadow. A boy pointed to something left on the porch. A wooden horse, whittled smooth, small enough to fit in a hand. Initials carve along the belly, JB. Elias's breath caught. His son's name. He picked it up, cradled it like glass. Said nothing. That night, the stories began. They spread from Dust Well to Dead River, all the way up through Canyon Country. Some said he was a ghost from the mines of Mexico, sent to punish those who chained others. Others swore he was a demon who walked barefoot across fire, unable to die until every man who sold a soul had been buried. But the old-timers, the ones who'd seen him, they knew better. He's just a man, Elias told a wide-eyed farmhand once, years later. Just a man who lived too long and saw too much. The hand nodded, but the legend already had roots. And so they told it, of the ranch that stood when it should have burned, of the quiet stranger who never ate, never aged, and never asked for thanks, of a night justice came on bare feet and with old scars. They say Boone Ranch still stands, green now, stubborn, fed by a spring that came up years after the fire. The land gave something back. And if you listen close on moonless nights, when the coyotes hush and the wind smells like copper, you might hear a hammer strike, or footsteps in dust, or see a figure walking the ridge. Not fast, not loud, just steady, like justice, like Finch,